All right, so now let's go ahead and do some editing, or adding articulations, dynamics, and phrasing. When I do this, I'd much rather zoom in so that I can see things a little bit more clearly. Let's go ahead and start with the articulations. Articulations are we use the articulation tool. And if you want to just place one articulation on a note, you click on it, select the articulation you want, and then click select. But there are some shortcuts available. You'll notice that in the upper right hand corner of a lot of these, there will be a letter or a number. And some of them are pretty obvious. S for staccato, A for accent, V for bowings up and down. And then some not quite as obvious, E for tenuto. So you can decide what you want to use. And notice that the fermata is also considered an articulation in finale. All right, and so actually, why don't we go ahead and take care of the fermatas first. You'll notice that these, when we move these around, they jumped down to the bottom below the staff, which is technically correct, but in a score, it's actually better to have them up above. I could just drag them up, but you'll notice there's also not one on all of these. One of the really nice things is, particularly with these shortcuts, if you hold down the shortcut key and then drag a box around all of the notes, it puts the articulation on all of the notes that you've selected in your box. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my fermatas. Right, there's one there. And one more. So we can put them, and you notice that works on cross staff. It would work on the same staff too. Oh, I missed. There. All right. So now we have all our fermatas in, and they're all on all of the staves in the score. You'll notice that the first and second endings, on the other hand, are not on all of the staves. They will be on the parts, though. Now we can also go in and decide that we want to articulate this just about any way you'd like. Let's say I wanted to do something rather unusual, and purists, don't get angry at me. I'm not, this is an exercise in notation, not necessarily an exercise in appropriate. Okay, so maybe I decide that I want to do this kind of a long short. And interestingly enough, finale will, in fact, and so I'm just holding the S key down while I'm doing all of this. Right, and so finale will play this back. Okay, and so, well, that's not the worst thing in the world. All right, so I might want to add those. Now I also want to add some dynamics too. Right? And so we'll go ahead and use the dynamics tool here. And then I will, again, I could just simply click, and then it will let me select the dynamic level that I want. And then here we are able to assign to all staves or just the current stave. So if I wanted, let's go ahead and do that to all staves. And so now we have a mezzo piano there. And then maybe here we'll go ahead and add in a mezzo forte. Now if you had looked closely, you'll see that there are numbers up here in the upper right hand corner, and those indicate the shortcuts for the different types of dynamics. The easiest thing to remember is that mezzo forte is 5. Just like I remember quarter note is 5 on the keypad for entering notes. And so if you remember that, and then it's backwards. As the numbers go up, it gets softer, and as it goes down, it gets louder. All right, so I'd like this to be a mezzo forte. And so I will hold a 5 key down and click. Now if I needed it to go to all of the staves, Okay, I can just simply go up here and copy the expression to all staves above or below. And there they put them in right away for us. It's nice to get these lined up this way. Okay. All right, and so now for our phrasing, the phrasing tool is actually the Smart Shape tool, and we use it primarily for either slurs or phrase marks and crescendo and decrescendo. So let's go ahead and in fact use a decrescendo here. And we'll just put a decrescendo here at the very end. Now, in Finale, you'd have to do these over and over again, but there is a shortcut, a little trick that we could use to copy them. So I'm going to select the first measure, and then I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to select the Edit filter. And I'm going to turn everything off except for Smart Shapes. Okay, and so now I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to right-click one more time, and you can see that Edit filter now has been selected because I put it in there. And if I click and drag from one staff to the next, you'll notice that the only thing that it copies is, in fact, my crescendo or decrescendo, and that gets me a much more uniform look. Now finally, if you want to work with slurs will back here. We take a slur, and let's say I want to slur just these two notes. Click and drag. And they will generally look just fine. Occasionally you'll have to do some editing on the longer ones. Let's say we wanted to do this and go all the way to here. Okay, we might find that that's a little too high, and so if you want to flatten it, you can do that. You can also use these handles to change the shape, maybe if you need to sneak it over the top of one note or something of that nature. Right, and so there's our slurs. So this is how you add dynamics, articulations, and slurs. All right, so I've added in all of my articulations. I've added in my phrasing marks that I'd want, and my dynamics. Last couple of things. Let's go ahead and add in a tempo marking. You could do this when you create the score, but I didn't. So a tempo marking is also found in the expression tool. So we'll go ahead and add that in. And I think adagio sounds pretty nice. So we'll go ahead with adagio and assign that. You could also go ahead and assign a metronome marking. And then finally, I need to just clean things up a little bit. There is no subtitle, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I think this is just a little too tight. There's just not enough white space on this page, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. We'll grab our page layout tool. And I don't need margins. The margins are just fine. I just need to resize the systems a little bit. And so I'm just going to take them down. Right now they're at 97. I'm going to just take them down to 90 and see how that looks. Okay, that looks good. And so in fact now I will want to respace the systems evenly. And I think that looks just quite a bit better.